There's one. Oh, got some good fight to him. Crankbait fishing in the fall can yield some pretty good results if you don't do these three things. We're talking about what not to do with crankbait fishing in today's video. All right guys, welcome back to the Monster Bass channel. My name is Jeremy, the Fishing Lone Star. Just landed a pretty good fish right here on the crankbaits, but today's video we're talking about what not to do with crankbait fishing. We're gonna go through three simple things that you can do to improve your crankbait game and catch more fish in the fall, because they are chewing cranks. All right, so today I'm throwing the Excite Baits XB5, kind of a 2 to 5 foot diving crankbait. What's unique about it though, it's kind of got a wider body. I'll show you from the bottom, kind of these harder edges on the sides, and gives it a nice good wobble to it, and a good hard one knock in it as well. So you got some good sound, and that's that copper green color. Great little bait fish profile for this time of year. I'm also going to be throwing this today on a glass rod. We'll talk about though the application of hookset in just a moment, but throwing it on a glass rod with fluorocarbon, and the reel is a 7.5 to 1 gear ratio. Probably should go a little bit slower, but we'll talk about that as well. Let's dive in. All right, so crankbait can really excel around grass and laydowns. However, you have to also be very patient fishing around those grass and laydowns. Like right now, I'm fishing around a brush pile, so I'm going to slowly bring it by, but as soon as I feel it kind of tick or hit that brush pile, I'm going to stop my retrieve and let that lure back up and float up off of it. Now, crankbaits by nature do float, but they also dive down when you retrieve. So as you retrieve, it's going to dive down. As you stop, it's going to float back up. So it's kind of contrary to what you normally do when you hit something with a Texas rig, or say for example a swim bait. You want to jerk up and kind of get it up in the water column. With a crankbait, it's the exact opposite. There's a fish, but it's the exact opposite. You want to stop because that crankbait is going to float and back up off of that brush pile. Whoa! All right, that little guy came off. Fine by me, because I don't have to then worry about my hooks getting in my hand. All right, so for today's video, we came to a man-made lake. Yes, it's a man-made lake. Most lakes are, but this one has a lot of brush piles and fish are holding to it. So for the purpose of showing you how to fish a crankbait around some of these brush piles, this is a perfect little setup. That was a little branch right there on top of the water. So as I was saying a minute ago, your crank, oh, a fish came up and ate it right as I was pulling it out of the water. We'll call that a bonus fish. That usually does not happen, but that was pretty cool that it did happen. All right, caught that one right as we were pulling it out of the water. Came up and swiped at it. All right, so as I was saying before that fish rudely interrupted us, I'm going to fish right down the edge of this brush pile, and as soon as I feel it hit something, I'm going to stop my retrieve, and that'll allow that lure to back up off of what I just ran into. Now normally you would jerk it off or up out of something like that if you're throwing a swim bait or a Texas rig. With a crankbait, number one thing you don't want to do is try to jerk when you feel like you've been hung up in either grass or a lay down timber, etc. Just let that lure float right back up off of it, and then continue your retrieve again. So the key here in doing that is to feel the difference between a bass biting and you catching grass. So right now I'm stuck in grass. I can feel the crankbait is not wobbling like it should. So I'm going to just go ahead and pull that in, get that hydrilla off. We're fishing right now at about 3 to 5 foot of water. This is a 2 to 5 foot diving crankbait, so I probably should even reel a little bit slower than I am, just to keep that bait right above the grass. You'll feel a little bit of tightness, whether it's a brush pile, timber, grass, and when you feel that tightness, just stop retrieving, and that lure will float back up, and then start reeling again. You'll know when a bass bites it. The rod will load up, and it'll pull pretty hard, or you'll feel that boom, boom, bite, which is way different than if you just feel a one tick. That's probably you hitting something or running into timber. All right, so number 2 of things not to do. Oh, that was a bite. I missed it. Oh, came back. You got it. Hang on, let me catch this fish. Oh, Lance is on as well. All right, I was about to go into number 2, and landed this fish. If he'll quit spinning, I'll get him off. And I will say this Excite Baits has some pretty sharp hooks, but let that little guy go. All right, number two, the thing that I used to do a lot, and quite honestly kind of caused me not to fish crankbaits because I just didn't really like them, is reeling too fast. So you'll notice my retrieve speed is pretty slow. It's almost like a chatterbait where you just want to reel it slow enough to where you get that shimmy in it. Much faster than that. Now sometimes you can burn a crankbait, sometimes fish like it like that, but most crankbaits have a pretty good wobble to them, so reel pretty slow, which is sometimes where your gear ratio comes into play. Now this is a 7.5 to 1. What that means is for every turn of the handle to there, the spool is going to turn 7.5 times. So most of the time with a crankbait, a lot of guys who like to crank a lot will have a 6.5 to 1 or slower reel. It just makes sure that they're not reeling it too fast. You can compensate by just making yourself reel slow, but that is harder to do, I must say, because you just get excited sometimes as fishermen and you want to reel fast to catch more fish. But you usually catch more with the crankbait reeling slower, which is why a gear ratio slower than 7.5 to 1 is normally ideal. Otherwise, just reel very slow. All right, the third and final thing to do, if you watch this, but stop setting the hook so hard. All right, your hook set should be just a sweeping motion, as you'll see here. There's one. Instead of a really hard jerk, which is gonna rip the hooks away. You're dealing with treble hooks, so you don't need a hard hook set. Pulled that one right off that brush pile. And you saw just a sweep hook set versus a hard jerk, and you'll catch them. You'll catch them doing it. You don't need to give a hard hook set or pull the hook away from them. All right, let's take another look at what that hook set looks like with a crankbait. Again, with those small treble hooks. As I'm reeling somewhat slow, when I feel the bite kind of tick my rod here in a minute, I'm just gonna lean, kind of turn my hips and lean in, let my rod load up, and the fish will kind of hook itself. You don't need a hard hook set. You'll see it right here. There's one. Oh, got some good fight to him.
Little bitty hooks.
Oh, that's a good fish. I was just burning that. I barely got one hook in them too. Got one little bitty treble hook. All right. I was burning that one kind of back to the boat because I threw it up in really shallow water. Now as I was burning it, the fish came and ate it right off the bottom. Stuck him good in his bottom lip, even though he just had one hook in him. All right, guys, there you go. Good one to end on. A couple of crankbait fishing tips. All right, guys, that's gonna be a wrap on this video of what not to do fishing the crankbait. I'll run through them really quickly again. If you hit timber or grass, do not jerk up. Stop, let that lure back up and float off of your obstruction, and you'll catch more fish that way. 2 is do not reel too fast. Slow down, use a slower gear ratio if you need to. And last, don't jerk hard on your hook sets. Just kind of lean into them, sweep a little bit, reel, and those treble hooks will do the job for you. You do not have to have a heavy hook set. Also, guys, if you're not already subscribed to the Monster Bass channel, make sure you do that. Hit the link below or the subscribe button below. Make sure you subscribe to the Monster Bass channel for more helpful tips and videos like this coming your way. Also, if you have not yet subscribed to Fishing Lone Star, my channel, please do that. It'll be linked below as well. Would love to see you over on my page. And if you've not yet, check out Monster Bass, the regional pro bags, a phenomenal subscription coming to you monthly with regionalized baits to help you catch more fish where you live. Monster Bass, go catch one. Whatever you do, don't throw it up on the bank. It's another not to do.
Rule number 4.
I don't know what number it is, but shouldn't do it.